Discover how a humble mechanic reversed a millionaire's fortune with one incredible engine fix. In the heart of a small Midwestern town, Jack's greasy palms gripped the tools of his trade as he waded through the familiar clatter of metal and the pungent scent of motor oil. At 35, he stood as a pillar of resilience against the tide of medical bills that swirled from his father's recent health crisis. Day after day, Jack poured his heart into fixing battered vehicles, embodying the pure spirit of the American dream. He worked tirelessly to provide for his wife and 2 kids, hoping that one day, they'd thrive without burdens hanging over their heads. But fate had a peculiar way of changing life's course. Enter Bill, the newly arrived businessman, flaunting his wealth in extravagant suits and a smirk that whispered disdain for the blue-collar workers around him. He saw Jack a hard-working mechanic through the lens of arrogance, believing those like Jack were meant to be beneath him. One fateful afternoon, Bill's luxury car broke down just as he was heading to a high-stakes meeting. Panic gripped him as he realized he had no choice but to call in the very man he looked down on for help. Swallowing his pride, Bill rolled his eyes as he drove his plush vehicle to the garage, a symbol of his egotistical status, now a distressed relic of shattered promises. Jack welcomed him, heart racing with excitement and unease, determined to mend the pain hidden beneath metal and steel. As he delved into the intricacies of Bill's engine, the tension in the air thickened. "You're supposed to be an expert," Bill scoffed, hands crossed, concealing both irritation and disbelief. Jack's brow furrowed. He didn't need Bill's condescension. His hands spoke the truth of his skill. With each twist of the wrench and each whir of the engine, Jack revealed a world of craftsmanship Bill had never truly appreciated. As the hours ticked by, their conversation developed from strained exchanges into shared stories. Jack spoke of family and the weight of responsibility, while Bill mentioned his aspirations and the pressure of maintaining an image. Just as Jack felt they were finding common ground, Bill's arrogance resurfaced like a stubborn rust spot. "It's just an engine, Jack," he chuckled dismissively. The engine sputtered to life, then died. The moment echoed with the silence of the audience before a storm. Just a heartbeat later, Jack felt a tightness in his chest, holding back the ache of ridicule he could already see on Bill's face. A crowd had gathered to witness this high-profile failure, Bill's world hanging in the balance. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Bill stood there, surrounded by gasps and whispers, he faced the truth he had tried to ignore. The powerful car that had become a symbol of his status was now a helpless beast in front of a man who had fought against the world with nothing but grit and sweat. Jack's silence said more than words ever could, a testament to resilience in the face of adversity. Would Bill finally see Jack's worth? Would the mechanic's humble expertise shine brighter than the glint of his own gilded ambitions? As the crowd watched, a tension thickened the air. The outcome of this moment threatened to change everything for both men. Would this encounter be the tipping point that transformed the way they saw each other and perhaps themselves? The answer hung in the balance, waiting to unfold. Jack's heart raced as he leaned back against the toolbox, feeling every pair of eyes in the crowd pinning him with expectation. The murmur of disbelief floated through the garage like thick smoke. He could practically hear their thoughts. How could this simple mechanic fix something as grand as a luxury car? The weight of that judgment pressed down on him, but he had come this far. He couldn't let it crush him now. Bill shifted his weight, his frustration palpable. It was written all over his face, anger and embarrassment twisted together like a bad batch of oil. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, panic slipping through the cracks of his bravado. "Get it started already." Jack clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to roll his eyes. Instead, he focused on the engine, its beauty hidden beneath the chaos of wires and parts. He knew he was capable of turning it back on, of restoring its former glory. With a deep breath, Jack returned to his work, tuning out Bill's impatience and the anxious whispers that swirled around them. He could feel his own heartbeat in the depths of his chest as he tightened something here, adjusted something there. The mechanics of hope and determination climbed through his veins. The town needed to see that a dedicated mechanic could work what felt like magic, even in the face of arrogance. Moments stretched out like a tangled wire. He took one last deep breath, turning the ignition key once again. A flicker of life sparked from the engine. He held his breath. Would it stay alive this time? The car shook, sputtered, and then it roared to life. The sound echoed against the walls of the garage, and Jack grinned, a mix of relief and pride swelling in his chest. Bill's expression shifted. Astonishment replaced his disdain. The murmurs of the crowd transformed into cheers, resonating with a sense of triumph. "How did you?" Jack raised a hand, cutting him off. "It's not just the car, Bill. It's about finding what's stuck and fixing it, whether it's metal or some part of ourselves." Bill's eyebrows shot up, caught off guard by the depth of Jack's words. His world of privilege had always shielded him from such raw truths. The moment hung delicately in the air, two men on very different paths suddenly finding themselves walking closer together. But deep down, Jack knew things wouldn't change overnight. Bill's lifestyle clashed with his own values, and the rift between them was deeper than any engine problem. Yet there was a spark of understanding now, just a faint glow, like the engine before him, ready to shift gears. As Bill approached, the cheers of the crowd faded into a low murmur. "Maybe I've underestimated you, Jack," he admitted, his voice quieter, almost vulnerable. "This doesn't just happen, right? You must work hard." "Every day," Jack replied, taking a step closer, feeling the weight of the world shift slightly. "Just like you, I have my own battles." "We all do." Bill nodded, and Jack noticed the glimmer of something, an inkling of respect. But they were interrupted suddenly by a ringing phone in Bill's pocket. The businessman cursed under his breath as he answered. The colors drained from his face, and all pretense of composure shattered like glass. "What do you mean the deal's off?" A quick panic spread through the garage, and Jack exchanged glances with the onlookers. Bill was unraveling before their eyes, the initial apology slipping away as darkness loomed. This was more than just his car that had failed today. It was something bigger, something he desperately relied on for validation. Jack approached Bill tentatively. "What happened?" Bill's hands trembled as he hung up. I think my world is about to collapse," he whispered, the ferocity of his arrogance crumbling around him. Jack felt a surge of empathy, a reminder that pride could be as heavy as any physical burden. "You're not alone in this sometimes. You just need someone to help you get back on your feet." As the crowd began to fade into nervous whispers, it became clear, both men held pieces of each other's fates in their hands now. What could have turned into a simple repair had morphed into something much deeper. Would Jack be able to offer Bill what he needed, or would the Millionaire's crashing world pull them both down? With questions swirling in the air, the next step seemed monumental. Jack took a deep breath, the weight of the moment dawning upon him. They were standing on the brink of something significant. Would they rise together, or would they both fall? The tension hung in the air like a heavy fog, thick with uncertainty. Jack studied Bill's face, searching for any sign of his next move. The crowd around them buzzed quietly, each observer holding their breath, awaiting the next chapter of this unexpected story unfolding before them. "Do you want to talk about it?" Jack asked, his voice softer now, betraying an unexpected gentleness. The billboards and flashing lights of success had not dimmed Bill's soul completely. Jack could see it flickering beneath the surface. Bill's gaze dropped, the weight of his reality crashing down. He hesitated, his voice trembling, as if fragile glass might shatter with the mere sound of truth. "I put everything on the line for this deal. It was my chance to prove I'm worth something. Now it's gone." Jack crossed his arms, biting his lip as he thought. Failure engulfed everyone at some point, rich or poor. "Sometimes the ground has to give way before you can find solid footing again," he said, the words flowing out before he could reconsider. Bill's eyes lifted, meeting Jack S. with a mix of surprise and vulnerability. The mechanic felt he was venturing down a road he had never traveled, yet he couldn't look away. "You really think it works like that?" Jack shrugged, the confidence in his voice steadying him. "When you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. It's all about how you approach it." For a moment, silence wrapped around them, the crowd becoming an ocean of unspoken emotion. Bill stood frozen, piecing together his world of arrogance and despair, suddenly confronted with a man who bridged the gap of their differences, embracing the humanity they both shared. "Maybe you're right," Bill finally said, voice stronger as hope peeked through the cracks. "Maybe I need to rethink my strategy." Jack nodded, feeling a flicker of warmth in the connection forming. "Rethink everything, Bill. The cars I fix don't just need parts to run, they need understanding, too." Just then, the garage door creaked open, and a figure emerged, cutting through with urgency. It was Carla, Jack's childhood friend, her face painted with worry. "Jack," she shouted, her breath coming in bursts. "You have to see this. It's about Bill." The crowd turned, eyes shifting toward the entrance as a palpable wave of curiosity swept through them. Bill found himself drawn back into the swirl of chaos, uncertainty settling within him once more. With a firm hand on his shoulder, Jack offered a nod of encouragement, urging him to hold on just a bit longer. "What is it?" Jack asked, fear creeping in alongside a tinge of excitement. Carla took a breath, her urgency settling into a steady flow. "There's a news report. The deal Bill was working on, apparently it's not just off, it was sabotaged. Someone's been playing dirty." Bill's face paled, disbelief crashing over him like a wave. "What are you saying? Who would do that?" "It doesn't matter right now," Jack interjected, adrenaline sparking in his blood. "What matters is how we handle it." Bill's eyes flickered with a mix of frustration and determination. "I can't go down like this. I need to fight back." Jack felt a rush of clarity. "Then let us fight." In a world where the stakes were suddenly higher, Jack understood the only way forward was together. They were no longer two men from different worlds. They were allies, bound by a shared desire for redemption and justice. But as they prepared to take on the shadows lurking at the edges of Bill's empire, a chilling question lingered in Jack's mind. Could they navigate the treacherous waters of deceit without losing their way or themselves beneath the rising tide? The words hung in the air, buzzing with urgency. Jack could feel excitement coursing through him as the crowd shifted, their eyes flickering between Bill and Carla. He could almost feel their anticipation turning to electricity, like the moment before a race when every muscle is tense and ready. "What do we do first?" Bill's voice was steady now, fueled by a newfound sense of purpose. It was a stark contrast to the man Jack had first encountered moments ago, the man crushed by his own failures. Carla stepped closer, her urgency amplified by the tension in the gathered crowd. "We need to find out who's behind the sabotage. There may be any number of people who stood to benefit from that deal crashing. But we can't do it alone. We need to gather intel, make connections." "Connections," Bill murmured, nodding slowly as his gears began to turn. "I have contacts within the industry. I could reach out to a few people." "Good," Jack said, the gears of his own mind whirling. "Let us play this smart. We'll need a plan. Start by reaching out to your own circle, the ones who might have an idea of what went down." Bill shot Jack a sharp look, one that held a glint of gratitude. "You're right, it's time to put all those old relationships to good use." As fear and anger battled within him, Bill began to strategize. He paced back and forth, hands fidgeting, heart racing. Jack could see his wheels turning. The transformation from passive victim to active fighter was magical to witness. He felt pride swelling within him, knowing he had helped spark this change. "Jack, there's something else," Bill suddenly said, turning to look directly into Jack's eyes. "I can't do this without you. I need a partner in this fight. Somebody to keep my head on straight when it all spirals out of control." The sincerity in Bill's voice spoke volumes. Jack realized he hadn't just become his mechanic, he had become a lifeline. Still, the weight of this sudden partnership settled heavy on his shoulders. Now, Jack was not just a spectator, but a key player in a game that was becoming increasingly dangerous. Of course, Jack replied, determination flooding his veins. I'm in this with you now. It's not just about saving your career, it's about exposing the truth. We will find out who did this and why. With each word, a sense of unity swelled in the air, drawing the crowd closer, as if they were all part of this unexpected journey. There were no barriers now. The man with the grease-stained hands and the millionaire were united by their common purpose. The crowd around them rippled with optimism, exchanging whispers of support. Jack's heart beat louder, pulsing through the uncertainty. Hope blossomed in the shadow of despair as they prepared to take their first step into the unknown. Carla, Jack said, turning to her. Can you help us dig into this? You've always had a knack for finding things out. She grinned, her eyes shining with determination. You bet. I've got connections too. I know where to look. Just as the pieces began to fall into place, a sudden crash from the back of the garage drew their attention. The crowd gasped, eyes wide with shock. Jack's heart raced again. What was that? Carla's voice trembled, uncertainty seeping back in. Jack's stomach churned. There was something lurking just outside their sight, some threat they hadn't yet confronted. Stay close, he said quietly. There's more to this than we understand, and I don't think we're alone in this fight. Bill took a deep breath, the fire in his eyes reignited. Let us face whatever comes next. Together. But as they turned toward the noise, a chilling realization hit Jack. They were stepping onto a battlefield where they could either reclaim their lives or lose everything all over again. What other battles awaited them in the depths of this budding war? The tension in the air thickened as Jack led the way, every instinct screaming for caution. He could feel the eyes of the crowd boring into his back, their anticipation palpable. He didn't just lead Bill and Carla. He carried the weight of their hopes, a burden that burned against his chest. The garage was a sprawling maze of machinery and shadows, making the crash seem all the more ominous. Jack's heart thudded in rhythm with his quickened breath as he stepped cautiously towards the source. He could feel the energy of the crowd behind him, simmering with fear and curiosity. Stay alert, he whispered, barely audible, but enough for Bill and Carla to hear. Both nodded, their expressions carved with determination, if not a hint of trepidation. They turned a corner and suddenly, a figure stumbled into view, a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, clutching a toolbox like a lifeline. The sight startled Jack, and instincts took over. He raised his hands defensively, stepping between the man and his friends. Hey, take it easy. We're not your enemies, Jack said, voice steadier than he felt. The man's labored breathing filled the void, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. You shouldn't be here. The man hissed, his tone urgent and panicky. They'll come for you too. It was clear he was more terrified of something unseen than of Jack's group. Who is going to come? Bill asked, his earlier resolve momentarily faltering. The man hesitated, glancing at them with a mix of desperation and caution. The ones who want to keep this operation under wraps. They'll do anything to silence anyone who knows. Jack's stomach dropped. Was this all part of the sabotage? A conspiracy more sinister than they had imagined? Every alarm bell in his head rang louder. They weren't just dealing with a business setback, they were knee-deep in danger. Look, you need to help us, Carla urged, taking a step closer. We're trying to uncover the truth about what happened. Can you give us anything? The man hesitated again, his eyes flickering from Carla to the shadows that seemed to creep closer. There are whispers, people connected to higher-ups. It goes deep. If they find out you're looking, they'll accident you. The finality of his words hung in the air, cold and stark. Whispers had a way of becoming shouts, especially when secrets were threatened. Jack's imagination spiraled with the possibilities of who might be involved, what lengths they'd go to protect their interests. No, Bill said suddenly, a fierce determination washing over him. We're not backing down. We need proof. If this really goes that deep, we have to push harder. Help us find what we need. The man shook his head violently. You don't understand. People have disappeared. It's not just a game. They play for keeps. Jack felt a chill, like ice settling in his veins. But they couldn't back down now, not when they were so close to uncovering the truth. Then we have to be smart about this, Jack said, resolve in every word. We'll need a plan. We can't fight shadows head-on, but we can draw them out. We'll expose everything. Bill's eyes glinted with a spark of rebellion, and Carla clenched her fists tighter, ready for action. The tension in the air shifted from fear to something sharper, courage tempered by urgency. Together, they had ignited something neither of them could quell, no matter the cost. Before they could discuss further, more sounds echoed through the garage, a chorus of footsteps, a tightening trap. Jack turned sharply, heart racing. "We need to find a way out, now," he shouted, urgency fueling his pulse. As they scrambled for cover behind the hulking machine, Jack glanced at Bill and Carla. He saw their determination harden into a shield against the unknown. Whatever awaited them on the other side of this battle, they would face it head-on. But would it be enough to protect them from the darkness encroaching around them? What truths lay hidden in the shadows, and just how far were they willing to go to uncover what was lurking behind the curtain? The sound of boots thudded against the concrete floor, an echo of authority that sent shivers down Jack's spine. The three of them huddled behind the machine, breaths shallow, hearts racing in sync. Jack could see Bill's jaw clench tighter, and Carla's eyes darted back and forth, searching for a way out. They knew they had to act. "Listen," Jack said, voice barely above a whisper, "we can't stay here. We need a distraction. Can you create one?" He directed the last part to the man with the toolbox, who still appeared to be in shock. I can try," he stammered, wiping beads of sweat off his brow. "If I can just grab a wrench, if I can make it loud enough, do it," Jack urged, squeezing his shoulder. "It might give us just enough time." As the man shifted into action, Jack felt the weight of the moment. They were teetering on the edge of a dangerous precipice, a precarious balance between discovery and destruction. The footsteps grew louder, and voices began to merge into a threatening cacophony. Just then, a metal screech cut through the air as the man sparked life into an old engine. Jack's heart only just settled when the sound of an explosion echoed through the garage, albeit a small one, loud enough to startle anyone within earshot. "Now!" Jack shouted, and they darted out from behind their haven, urgency propelling them forward. They sprinted toward the back exit, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Jack glanced back, his mind racing. He needed to stay focused. They had to get out and into the thick of the city where they could blend in. Outside, the air felt different, crisp, almost electric. They stopped just long enough to catch their breath, the chaos of the garage fading into the background behind them. But there was no time to waste. They had to think of their next move. "Where to?" Carla panted, her breath uneven. "Let us head to my uncle's shop," Bill suggested, determination sparking his words. "He knows a lot about the inner workings of the company. He might have heard something." Jack nodded, the idea forming a flicker of hope in his mind. "Good idea. If anyone can help us piece this together, it's him. We need to keep our heads down, though. No one can see us." They ducked into an alley, shadows wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Each step they took felt heavy, their hearts still pounding from the showdown. A sense of foreboding lingered, and Jack felt it deep in his gut. "Do you think we lost them?" Carla whispered, her eyes scanning the streets for any sign of danger. "For now," Bill replied, but his voice held a hint of uncertainty. "But if that guy was right, they won't stop looking." Jack's resolve hardened. "This isn't over. The truth is out there, and we're going to find it." He gritted his teeth, determined to see this through. Just as they approached the shop, a familiar figure lingered in the doorway. "Jack? Is that you?" It was Sam, his uncle, looking both puzzled and concerned. Before Jack could answer, a sleek black SUV turned the corner, engine growling like a predator. Jack's heart dropped. He had a feeling they were not just running from shadows anymore. The faces behind the glass were here to hunt. "Get inside," Jack shouted, urgency flooding his voice as they all rushed to the shop, but he knew they were about to find themselves in a fight for their lives as the truth loomed just out of reach. Would they be ready for the battle that was coming? The four of them stumbled into the dimly lit shop, the metal door slamming shut behind them. Jack leaned against it, his ear pressed to the cold surface, listening. The murmur of the street felt distant yet dangerously close. Sam's eyes widened in alarm. glancing at the group with a mix of confusion and concern. "What is going on?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," Sam said, moving closer, his brow furrowing. "There's no time for explanations, Uncle Sam," Jack said, catching his breath. "There's a black SUV after us and they want to stop. We have to hide." Sam nodded, the grim understanding etched on his face. "Simon, quick. We can't be out in the open." He led them deeper into the shop, past stacks of tires and old engines. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself was thickening around them. Jack could sense the urgency and fear radiating from Bill and Carla, their trust in him palpable. "Where is it safe?" Carla whispered, her eyes darting about the cluttered space, looking for an escape route. "Back there," Sam pointed toward a door peeling with age, trailing further into the dark. "It's a storage room. We can barricade ourselves for a bit." They hurried inside, pressing against the walls as Sam secured the door with a couple of old crates. Jack didn't want to think about what might happen if the men in the SUV found them. The sound of footsteps outside echoed, menacing and close. Jack felt the tension in the room squeeze tighter. "What were you doing at the garage?" Sam demanded, crossing his arms. "You kids shouldn't be messing around with those people." "It's complicated," Jack said, running a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the situation. "We found something big. They want to silence us before we can expose it." Sam looked at them all, concern etched on his face. "You need to tell me everything." "What did you find?" "Money laundering, shady deals, Bill broke in," voice trembling. "They're involved in far worse than we thought. And we have proof." "Proof," Sam echoed, his brow furrowing deeper, realizing the potential dangers they faced. "If that is the case, then we have to take action. But first, we need to get out of here." Another crash sounded outside, the noise jolting everyone. Jack held Sam's gaze, fear and determination in his own. "We can't leave without the evidence. We need to make sure the police know what's going on." "Are you crazy?" Sam exclaimed, glancing at the door again. "If they catch wind of that, they'll come for you." "They'll come for me too." Jack shook his head, frustration bubbling. "I can't let them win. Not if we have a chance to stop this." Carla reached for Jack's hand, squeezing it tight. "Okay, but we need a plan. We can't just charge in there without thinking." Bill nodded, his expression serious. "How do we get the evidence?" "We can use the old garage. It's a small space. They want to expect an ambush." As the words hung in the air, Jack felt a flicker of hope beneath the fear. "We could set up a trap, lure them in, and then call for help." If we can get the cops there before he could finish. There was a loud thud against the door they had sealed. Jack's heart raced. "Get ready," Sam whispered, eyes wide. "They're coming." As they prepared themselves, doubt washed over Jack. Was he leading them into a trap of his own? Or could they really turn the tide in a moment filled with chaos? He took a deep breath. The truth was within reach, but at what cost? Would they fight or would they flee? Behind the door, the intruders were closing in, their voices clear now. Jack needed to decide fast. "Are we ready to risk it all for the truth?" He asked his friends, the weight of his intention hanging heavy in the air. It was time to take the leap, but once they did, there would be no turning back. The door shuddered again, a heavy thump that sent a jolt of adrenaline through Jack. He steadied himself as he looked at Sam, Carla, and Bill, their faces a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to move," Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They'll get through if we don't act fast." Sam nodded, his brow furrowing as he examined the cramped room filled with old tools and forgotten memories. "We can't go out through the front. If they're as close as I think they are, we'd be walking straight into a trap." Jack felt a ripple of panic. They had come too far to give up now. What if we take a side exit? There must be another way out of this place. Bill, eyes darting around the room, suddenly pointed toward a covered hatch in the far corner. "There. That could lead outside." "Let us check it out," Jack urged, racing toward the hatch. The sound of footsteps grew louder. He pulled off the tarp, revealing a rusty metal door, its edges worn from years of neglect. "Can you open it?" Carla asked, her voice edged with anxiety. "There's only one way to find out," Jack replied, shaking the handle. It grudgingly twisted and the door creaked open, a gust of musty air escaping into the dim light. Jack peeked into the darkness beyond. "We need flashlights," he said, glancing back at the others. Sam rummaged through a nearby toolbox and pulled out 2 flashlights. "Here," he said, tossing one to Jack. "Stay close." With renewed resolve, they shuffled through the doorway, into the narrow tunnel that felt like it was meant to be a secret. Jack flicked on his flashlight, illuminating the musty walls. It was cramped and dark, with dampness clinging to the air. They moved in silence, every footfall echoing against the concrete. The muffled sounds of commotion above grew softer, and Jack could feel hope creeping in, thin but persistent. "If we can just make it to the other end," he said, only half trying to convince himself. Suddenly, they stopped short as a voice rang out from behind them, deep and threatening. "They went this way. I can smell them." Jack's heart raced. "We need to move faster." As they hurried deeper into the tunnel, Jack felt a surge of panic mix with urgency. He glanced over his shoulder, adrenaline blurring his vision. They weren't safe, not yet. The tunnel opened into a larger space that seemed forgotten by time. Jack's flashlight beam danced on the walls, revealing old graffiti and the remnants of a long-abandoned workshop. "They won't expect us here," Sam murmured, his breath hitching in his throat. "But we need to figure out our next step." Jack's mind raced as he scanned their surroundings. "We could hide and wait for them to pass." Or maybe Bill's eyes widened. "What if we set a distraction?" He pointed at a stack of old fuel cans piled haphazardly in the corner. "We could just light a fire and are you crazy?" Carla exclaimed, eyes wide. "Fire in a place like this?" Jack felt the weight of everyone's gaze on him. "It could create a diversion, give us a chance to slip away while they are distracted. That black SUV can't follow us into a burning building." "Is it worth the risk?" Sam asked, concern etched on his face. Jack took a deep breath, weighing the options. They were backed into a corner, and time was running out. "If we don't do something, they'll find us. This might be our only chance." As the echoes of footsteps grew closer, adrenaline surged through him, mingling with the fear of failure. "What are we doing? Are we sticking together to fight or splitting up to save ourselves?" Jack felt the heat of decision close in, their fate hanging in the balance, just as the shadows of the past loomed nearer. Would they ignite a flame of chaos or extinguish their chances forever? "Let us do it," he declared, fire ignited in his eyes. Together. The moment hung heavy, a precipice of action. And right outside, the threats loomed, impatient and relentless. Just then, they heard a noise from behind them, sharp and unmistakable, a metallic clink, followed by the unmistakable sound of voices drawing closer. Jack's heart raced as fear clawed at his throat. Would it be their salvation or their destruction? Jack's stomach twisted as the metallic noise echoed through the workshop like a death knell. The sound of footsteps crept closer, heavy and unyielding. "Now or never," he murmured, glancing at the others, their faces tight with resolve. "Let us do this," Carla whispered back, though Jack could see the tremor in her hands. They moved toward the stack of fuel cans, nerves thrumming like electric cables. Jack quickly scanned the area, breathing in the stale air mixed with the smell of aged metal and oil. It was a jarring contrast to the chaos brewing behind them. "Get ready," Jack said. "We'll light it and run. Stay close and trust each other. Just like we practiced." Bill nodded, positioning himself next to the fuel cans. He picked up an old rag, clearly used before, and started to wrap it around one can's opening, creating a makeshift wick. "What if they come in here while we're lighting it?" Sam asked, his eyes wide with fear. "They won't if we make this quick," Jack replied firmly. "This could buy us the time we need." In a moment of stillness, they all seemed to understand the gravity of what they were about to do. The weight of their lives rested on this decision. With a deep breath, Jack leaned forward, grasping a lighter that was resting ominously on one of the workbenches. His hands shook as he flicked it, the flames sputtering to life. Carla took a step back, the tension palpable. "Hurry!" Jack pressed the flame to the rag, and it ignited with a whoosh, flames licking the air, dancing with life and destruction. Bill kicked the can hard, the flames catching on the others and igniting them too. The heat flooded over them, and the fire devoured the darkness, illuminating the hurried panic on their faces. "Let us go. Now!" Jack shouted, heart pounding as the fire spread, smoke curling into the air. They sprinted down the tunnel, breaths ragged, the sound of their own heartbeats mimicking the pounding of footsteps from behind. It felt like a scene from a nightmare, the sound of the fire roaring behind them and the looming threat of those who hunted them. The exit became a beacon, glimmering in the fading light of their flashlights. "We're almost there," Sam shouted, desperation tinging his voice. As they approached the end, the tunnel narrowed, forcing them closer together. Jack felt the warmth of the flames at their backs, a haunting reminder of the danger. Just as they reached the end, a shadow loomed in front of them. "Stop right there," a voice thundered, cold and commanding. Jack skidded to a halt, the adrenaline crash hitting him hard. He turned slowly, scanning the dim light, face pale as he saw the figure blocking their way. It was one of the men who had been chasing them, a smirk plastered across his face. "You thought you could outrun us?" he taunted. "Jack!" Carla cried out, voice strained with fear. "What do we do? Fight or run? That's our choice now," Jack said, heart racing. "And I choose to protect my friends." With every ounce of courage, Jack reached for anything he could find. A wrench lying on the ground. It seemed small, but might just be enough. But as the figure advanced, Jack's mind raced. Did they even have a chance against him? What would it take to push through this moment? The fire raged behind them, illuminating the fear in their eyes, and Jack knew that a choice had to be made here, not just for survival, but for something more. "Together!" he yelled, rallying his friends as they united, ready to face whatever came next. The moment hung heavily, a heartbeat away from chaos or a chance at survival. What lay beyond the immediate threat could change everything they knew. Could they overcome the odds, or would this be the end of their fight? They stood there, backs pressed against the cold wall of the tunnel, feeling the heat radiating from the flames behind them, and the weight of the moment sank deep into Jack's chest. Determination coursed through him, adrenaline mingling with fear. The figure blocking their way was nothing but a shadowy silhouette, but his presence felt monumental. There was no backing down now. This was the breaking point. "Well, are you going to make a move or just stand there?" the man taunted, confidence dripping from his words like oil on the garage floor. Jack could feel the pulse in his veins, an urge to either fight or flee, but there was comfort in having his friends by his side. They exchanged glances, their eyes spoke of shared resolve and unyielding bravery. They had come too far to let fear hold them back. "Go!" Jack shouted, swinging the wrench like a baseball bat. The sound of metal clashing against metal echoed through the narrow space as the shadow lunged. The moment met chaos, a swirl of movement, the fight or flight instinct kicking in. Bill took a swing with a loose pipe he grabbed at the last second, and Carla hurled a toolbox, an explosion of tools scattering across the floor, creating a small barrier. For a heartbeat, the man hesitated under the onslaught, confusion flickering across his features. "Keep moving," Jack yelled, his voice firm like the steady hand of a trained mechanic guiding an engine back to life. They rushed past the disoriented figure, fear driving their legs forward even as the fire billowed behind them, chasing them with every flicker of flame. They burst into fresh air, the crisp environment hitting them like a wave as they stumbled out into the open. "Over there," Bill shouted, pointing toward a cluster of trees where they could blend into the shadows of the night. They sprinted toward the cover, hearts pounding, breaths ragged. "Did we lose them?" Carla gasped, looking back, worry knitting her brows. They crouched behind the trees, the fire illuminating their surroundings in an eerie orange glow. Jack's mind raced with possibilities. "They can't follow us into the woods," he panted, his relief washing over him in waves. They had managed to escape for now, but the danger wasn't over yet. The hidden truth loomed in the air like an unshakable ghost. They needed a new plan, to turn the tables and expose the shadowy figures that threatened their lives. "We've got the proof, but we should get it to the police, fast," Jack said, breathing heavy. "Yes," Bill replied, urgency sparking in his eyes. "But we also have to be smart about it. They could still be watching." We need a distraction, Carla suggested, her mind racing. If we can create enough noise or chaos, she trailed off, the wheels in her mind turning. Jack shot her a knowing look. What if we go back to the garage? Set off a few more distractions to lure them away from their operation? Then we slide in during the chaos. Bill shook his head with incredulity. You want to go back? After everything? It's our best shot. We can get to the evidence they don't expect us to find, Jack insisted. They might think we're too scared to return. The weight of their decision pressed upon them. Yet, the fire of determination burned brighter than the dangers that lay ahead. Okay, Bill said finally, his voice steady. Let us do this. With the shadows of the trees casting their cloak around them, they formed a plan. Jack felt the surge of teamwork, the kind that solidified friendships, unyielding and true. They slipped back toward the garage, hearts pounding with courage, minds focused on the prize, the truth. Back at the garage, a different tension hung in the air. The stillness felt heavy as they crept closer. Remember, we stick together, Jack whispered. Their eyes locked, a silent promise to protect one another. Each step felt weighted, the air prickled with uncertainty. They moved silently toward the back entrance, Jack's heart racing as adrenaline surged once again. As they crept inside, the familiar sense of oil and metal mixed with the lingering threat of smoke from there earlier. Chaos. Let us split up, Jack suggested. Cover more ground. We'll meet back here in 10 minutes. Cautiously, they nodded, each moving into the darkened corners of the garage, hearts racing, but minds sharp. Jack made his way to the office area, the one space he thought held something vital. He rifled through papers, adrenaline fueling his movements, scanning for anything that could expose the corruption lurking behind the company facade. Jack. Carla's voice pierced the silence, filled with urgency. Come look at this. He rushed over to find her standing over an old desk, pointing at a hidden compartment. There's a folder here. It looks important. Together, they pried it open, revealing documents that made Jack's blood run cold, a ledger full of names, amounts, and dates that painted a picture of deception as sharp as a wrench's edge. They had what they needed to blow this whole operation wide open. We need to get this to the cops, Jack said breathlessly. But just then, they heard footsteps again. Not just any footsteps, a steady rhythm echoing closer. Hide, Carla urged, diving behind a nearby car with Jack hot on her heels. They huddled together, breath hitching in anticipation of what would happen next. Do you think it's them? Jack questioned, trying to catch a glimpse through a narrow opening. How many do you think? The door clicked open, and 3 men stepped inside, their expressions dark and determined. Search the place, one of them growled. They can't have gone far. Jack's heart raced as they shared terrified glances. This was at the moment they would need to fight for everything they believed in. They couldn't let the truth go down without a fight. Suddenly, Jack remembered the distractions. When I say go, we make our move. Carla, you're on the far side. Bill, stay low and follow my lead. He steadied his breath, feeling the weight of their shared decisions, of commitment to fight together. Go! Jack shouted, and the chaos erupted. Jack bolted toward the door with Carla and Bill right behind him, yelling to draw the men's attention. Over here! They shouted, throwing tools around, creating noise and confusion. They raced for the exit, adrenaline and hope surging through them as they made a break for freedom. They gained ground, shedding their worries like the dust they sprinted past. Outside, the night air embraced them, a shroud of safety wrapping around their shoulders as they pressed deeper into the woods. They could hear angry shouts behind them, but it only fueled their feet to run faster. As they descended into the cover of the trees, the flame of determination burned bright inside them. They were united now, against the world. We did it! Bill exclaimed, his face radiating triumph, but Jack felt the rush of reality weighing heavy in their hearts. Not yet, Jack reminded them, hope mixed with anxiety. We still need to get this evidence to the police. We can't stop until it's done. But as they moved further into the underbrush, they felt a weight lift from their shoulders. Each step brought them closer to vindication. They were more than friends now. They had forged a bond stronger than any challenge thrown their way. They sprinted through the night, hearts in sync, the adventure ahead filled with hope and resolve. The world was bigger than themselves, and together they would take back their lives, step by step, fueled by the power of unity and the undeniable force of truth. And with that, an unexpected ending began to unfold. Their journey was just starting, and the fire of friendship fueled their souls as they prepared to face whatever came next. Now is the time for you. Don't just be a spectator in this incredible journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure more amazing content comes your way. And hey, comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to hear what you think. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread hope.